It's Monday and time for the Back to Business podcast, featuring Calgary's industry leaders. Welcome today's show host, Kim Hayden.
The path to success includes discipline. It includes having that schedule, being prepared, and don't forget the rewards. My guest today, Skye, he is here from Orange Theory, and he is going to be walking us through how to have personal successes that will feed your body, your mind, your spirit, and help you so you are on the path of personal and professional successes. But first, our land acknowledgement.
In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Aiahe Nakota Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta.
Alrighty, welcome to the show, Skye. How are you?
I'm amazing. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I am excited. I have to say, we're going to make sure we get a close-up of your eyes. You have sky blue eyes, so it's going to be so easy to remember your name. You have beautiful eyes. I am excited about this conversation because I've talked to a lot of people in health and fitness who are on like the training side, but I haven't really talked to anybody that's on the ownership side, like a business around health and fitness. So I'd love to dive into this, but before we get started, tell us a little bit of who is Skye?
Yes, who is Skye? So I come from a Lebanese heritage, immigrated to Canada in 1990, came with my parents and my two sisters to Edmonton, actually, and I grew up in Edmonton, went to the University of Alberta, got a civil engineering degree, just like every other Lebanese person. And unless you're a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, you don't add up to anything. So I had to get that out of the way. And then shortly after graduating, I got the opportunity to team up with my father and my uncle and get into the fitness industry, which we did with Gold's Gym, actually. It wasn't Orange Theory Fitness at all to start with. And so that's how I got into the fitness industry in 2005. And I thought, we're going to open up a gym, going to hire a couple people, but I'm going to go be an engineer because what's there to running a gym? It's simple. And very quickly we realized that running a business in the fitness industry is a tremendous task that needed a lot of full-time works. And so I dedicated the rest of my life to that industry, and I'm still in it today.
Well, and you had mentioned before we started that this has been, I think, maybe a full journey for you, because when you started this journey, you yourself were not in your best shape.
Yeah.
So, maybe you could walk us through a little bit of how you have transformed not only your business life, but your personal health and well-being, and how the business has impacted or brought light to that for you.
Absolutely. So very quickly, I was in pretty good shape going into the fitness industry. One of the draws is I work out all the time. I'm in good shape. I love the gym. And why not get into the industry since I love it so much? And hey, if you own a gym, guess what you're going to do? You're going to work out in that gym, right? So unfortunately, the opposite is somewhat true. And so when you own a gym and you're in that business, think about yourself and what you do at work. When you're at work, you're there to work. But if your work is also your gym, think about the mindset of somebody who's going to a gym. They're kind of going to turn it off. They're going to turn off their heads. They're going to get away. They're going to focus on themselves, get away from all the worries of that day, and do it as whatever they're going to do in the gym. And so when you're in your own business, you're not turning it off. You're looking for things to clean. You're looking at stuff, what's broken, what's not. Members are talking to you. And so it becomes stressful, even more stressful. Instead of taking away some of that stress, it tends to add to it. Now, I'm speaking in general.
No, absolutely. I get it. I am with you 110% on that, because we work in our businesses all the time, and it becomes kind of, I think it maybe at times consumes a piece of who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what happened to me, unfortunately, is I sort of stopped working. I mean, I never really did stop, but it wasn't 5 days a week. I wasn't looking after what I was eating. It became sporadic where I would work out a lot in January and February, and like everybody else would drop off. Always knowing that, hey, like I'm in the fitness industry. I gotta work out. I gotta work out. Like all these members are watching me. But year after year, I kept on putting an extra 2 to 3 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds, up until my absolute worst. I got to 240 pounds, and this was in 2018. And something happened. And what happened is, I call it a tipping point, and it happened to me, it happens to a lot of people. And that tipping point is where you say, I have decided that I am not okay with this.
Yeah.
And that's when a lot of people, there needs to be a tipping point for somebody to start wanting to do an action. That motivation needs to have a tipping point. Whether that tipping point is, oh my God, I got diagnosed with something, or I just left the doctor's office and he told me that I'm not going to live in 10 years if I keep going the way I am, or, I just got divorced. My wife left me because she doesn't want to be with me. Something happens in somebody's life for them to want to make a change. Now, in the fitness industry, and we look at our members, or we call them prospects before they become members, almost every single one of them, when they walk in, a tipping point somehow, somewhere has just recently happened. And they've decided that they're going to do something about it. So that's step one. Now, what happens after that is incredibly important because, as you know, especially now we're just coming off the New Year's resolution season, so many of those people that had a tipping point and great intentions and motivation after January and February of coming on are gone again. They've tried it and they kind of failed at it or stopped. And there's really important
Or it's
reasons
not
why.
fast enough. Human beings want that immediate response. James Clear, have you read his Atomic Habits?
Yes.
I think it's probably one of the absolute best books on the market. And it really explains a lot around people's psychology and how we lean into comfort spaces when we need to soothe. So we're afraid of the new interest rates. We're afraid of prices of cars. We're afraid of losing our job or being right size. So what can we control? Well, I can control my bag of Doritos, and I can control if I binge on Netflix, because these are easy, low bars, but they have a long-term negative impact. And that's what I learned from, reading Atomic Habits and really understanding how short-term for long-term and how that psychology works. How do you get somebody kind of re-engaged? So let's say they haven't been in for 3 weeks. And I know that, so first of all, tell everybody the company that you guys all went in and where your locations are.
Yes, absolutely. So Orange Theory Fitness is currently the company that I'm involved with, myself and my family as franchisees. In Calgary, we have 3 locations in West Spring, Marteloup, and Seton. And we have a few other locations in Canada that we own or manage, or both. So that's what we do, and that's my day-to-day. And so back to your question of what do we do to re-engage people that potentially have call it falling off the boat, falling off the wagon, or even to engage a member who just signed up with us. What are some of the things we do? Well, before I get into that, let's talk about the psychology of and the mindset of somebody who has just started a fitness journey, okay? Like I said, there is a tipping point that happened. So now they're coming in, they've signed up, they are motivated, okay? And motivation is powerful, but motivation is so extremely temporary. And so if you look at motivation as a spark plug to ignite your engine, then you could use it. If you look at motivation as something I'm going to have on a daily basis that's going to get me to my goal, you're dead wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's how you have to understand that motivation needs to lead to discipline. And I printed off a quote, and I'm going to read it because it's very important. It says, motivation only exists as a noun, but discipline has a verb form. In other words, discipline is something you do and choose to do. Motivation is a thing that can come and go, which you cannot choose to do or control. Motivation happens to you. What you do with it and turn it into discipline is going to be the reason why you are successful or not successful. And so, okay, so now we understand the formula, but how the heck do I become disciplined? Okay, well, there's things you can do to make it easy or more enjoyable, and things that are more enjoyable are easier and you want to do them. There's things you can do, micro, tiny habits that are going to lead to the discipline, because discipline at the end of the day is doing the same thing over and over, choosing to do it. Now, the reason you want to choose something is intrinsically in you, I want to do that. So for example, with me, now, when I get up, the first thing I think about is I want to work out. I am telling you, if you told me I couldn't work out at 6 a.m. in the morning, I would be very grumpy. I wasn't always like that. I'm the same person I am from 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, I didn't wake up at 6. I didn't want to. Today, when I wake up at 6, if you told me that I could not work out, and I'm talking 7 days a week, not 4, not 3, 7 days a week, that I couldn't work out, I would be incensed. Why? Because I get tremendous joy out of it. Okay, so am I different than anybody else? No, I'm not, but I've just built the things that have allowed exercise to be incredibly enjoyable. There's certain reward factors that I've built into my lifestyle. For example, when I finish a workout, I wrote down what I did. I have a big sheet, I have a big board showing every single one of my runs. For example, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers. I keep adding them up. And I got this big dream of running across Canada, 10 or 15 kilometers at a time. And I think about that when I'm running. I'm like, which province am I in right now? And every, couple of months I advance a province. So playing little games like that with your mind to continue to make it enjoyable. Another thing that I do is I take pre-workout, which is full of caffeine before my exercise. I mean, if you told me that I had to exercise without my pre-workout, which I'm very used to, that would also be quite annoying for me. And so I look forward to that pre-workout, or somebody may have coffee or an energy drink before the workout. It makes you want to work out. And so you build these things into your regime to be able to make it more enjoyable. And the more enjoyable it is, the easier it is. The more easy it is, the more likely you are to do it.
Because human beings like easy.
Correct. And then the big reward is looking in the mirror.
And I have to say, you've done good.
Thank you.
You're getting the good shirts so you can see the guns. That's my son walks around. He goes, look at these. And he has such tremendous joy in seeing his body shift and morph through his own efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there is some sort of a dopamine release.
Oh, absolutely.
When you look at yourself and you're like, wow, I'm 42 years old, and I like to compare myself to 42-year-olds because I compare quite well. Now I didn't used to when I was a little bit younger, and so that's a source of pride and joy, which again elevates me. It makes me feel good at the start of the day. And then you, okay, well, how does that relate to everything else you do? Well, look, you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, your confidence is high. When your confidence is high, you're going to do so many more things that are going to reward you, whether it's in business or family or both. Or if your family life is really good, your home life, if you're the hero of your own home, which is what you're supposed to be before you're a hero outside your home. If you're the hero inside your own home, you're much more likely to be the hero at work or the hero of your own life. And all of that goes back to discipline. If you have that discipline, you can build all of those things one little brick at a time. If you don't have the discipline and it's chaotic, then you're always looking at fixing stuff. You're always putting out fires. Those people that are, something's always happening to them,
Yes.
They're always putting out fires.
There's always a drama.
There's always the drama, and it's never their fault. And most of the time, it's stuff that happens to them, but why? Why do those people tend to have this chaotic lifestyle? And then you see the people that and I'm sure you know them, and I know them as well, that seem to have a very solid routine, that work out all the time, that seem to handle these fires much more eloquently and easier.
Oh, yeah.
And have time at the end of the day to be able to sit down with you for half an hour and chat instead of always being on their phone, checking emails, doing whatever they need to do.
I 110%. I was saying before the show, I said, oh, my girlfriend, Afe, one of the most beautiful women I know, her and her husband are like this. They're a beautiful couple, and they've raised beautiful children, and they just seem to be that it couple. And that's how I found out about Orange Theory. She was like, you've got to check it out. You've got to check it out. It's the best ever. So why do people like Afe, who are already in the fitness space, when Orange Theory opened up, what was it about that product, that company that she sits there and says it's the best place to go?
Yeah.
What is it?
Absolutely. So there's a few things. I would say, technically speaking, you got to schedule all your workouts. You have to book them in.
Oh.
So you can't just walk into an Orange Theory whenever you want and do a class. And so some would say, well, I don't like that. I want to be able to walk in whenever I want to a gym and do a workout. Well, what gets scheduled gets done.
This goes back to your discipline.
Correct.
Okay.
Make it easy for you to be disciplined. What gets scheduled gets done. If you say, I'm going to work out 5 times this week, sometime before or after work, the likelihood that you're going to do that, especially somebody who's starting a brand new workout regime, is much lower than if you book 5 workouts into your schedule, on your Outlook calendar, in your Google calendar, whatever, and you're accountable to showing up. So the whole structure of I book a class at a certain time and I can build the rest of my life around it, well, then you're thinking about this. Okay, so I booked a 9 a.m. class. I need to drive 20 minutes to get there, so I need to leave the house at 9:10. But to leave the house at 9:10, I need to have everything packed by 9. Well, why didn't I just pack it the night before? And I got the kids set up, and I'm going to do all these things. So you've started the very fact that you have to book a class, you start structuring everything else around it, which will make you a lot more successful in building that routine, that discipline. So that's one of the things that seems small, but it's huge.
That is big.
It's
yeah.
huge.
Yeah, that's like having accountability.
Yeah.
And accountability. Michelle Obama, I just saw an interview that she did recently, and she talks about every day is a practice day. Mm-hmm. And practice days allow you to become, what is that? Perfect. So if you aren't putting into practice, if you're practicing not getting out of bed until 10 a.m., and if you're practicing eating Doritos while binge watching your new favorite series, then that's what you become perfect at.
Correct.
So I love this because I literally just watched this whole interview, and it's like the timing of this conversation is so huge. Let's talk about, we've talked about discipline. We talked about taking those steps. A lot of people who do hit their 50s and 60s, they're going to, with med tech the way it's coming along, it's not going to be unheard of to see people hitting 100, 110. How do you live your best life? What are some of the things that they can do through fitness and such to live their best life when we know that, age is working against us, right? Everything's dying and breaking down within our body. What are some of the things that we can do to actually extend the health of our bodies?
That's a fantastic question. In brief, there's 4 pillars. In my opinion, there's 4 pillars that you really, really, really have to understand, and you can't leave one of them out, because if you do, the other 3 suffer, okay? So the first pillar is nutrition. You gotta know what you're putting into your mouth. And me and you were talking before the show about how you do home cooking and you pick your ingredients and they're fresh, and you do intermittent fasting. That's incredible. You have your brain health, you have your gut health, your gut brain, they talk to each other. It's unbelievable. You need to understand that. You may not choose one diet, or you may choose one diet over the other. That's fine. But you need to understand nutrition. So that's your first pillar. Your second pillar is sleep. Sleep is so incredibly ununderstood and undervalued. And so my first recommendation to anybody, whenever we talk about sleep, is go get yourself a sleep ring. Get yourself a sleep ring, because every morning I wake up and I rush to sync my sleep ring with my phone to check out what my sleep score is. Because my sleep score is going to tell me how much REM sleep I got, how much deep sleep I got, and what my sleep score is out of 100. Now, why is that important? Because it tells me what kind of day I'm going to have. I have a 90 out of 100. I'm going to have an unbelievable day. If I'm going to have a 60 out of 100, not so much. And I got to be careful and make it better the next day. So there's a whole science behind sleep. But what you need to understand is that if you do not sleep well, you wreck everything else.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how good you're at it. You need sleep. That's where you recover. That's where you build muscle. That's where you do everything you need to do.
Yep.
The other two are related to exercise. Okay. And often people do one or the other, but not both. So one is strength building your muscles. It's incredible. Muscle is the longevity. It's so closely correlated with longevity. And so you need to build your muscle. You need to have that. So as you grow older, you're able to stabilize your body. You're still able to do these things. Run after a kid, go up the stairs, sit down and get up, tie your own shoelaces. So muscle is incredibly important. And then the fourth pillar for me is your cardiovascular health. Now you see some people that are incredibly strong, but you ask them to run for a kilometer and they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. But your cardiovascular conditioning is incredibly important. So for me, again, it's nutrition, sleep, your strength or your muscle building, and then your cardiovascular conditioning. If you have those four and they're working in unison, you don't have to be absolutely great at all four, but if you're working on all four, you're going to be so far ahead than everybody else. So that is the key for me, is balancing those four.
Sleep is sleep deprivation. They did a study years ago. So I was a waitress in Vegas, graveyard shift. And the union would come in and they would measure how far we're working. We were capped at like 22 miles a night and da-da-da-da-da. So we would have all this stuff. But one of the things was at that time, and I don't know how if this still is relevant, but at that time they said people who work graveyard shifts, because we're disrupting our natural body rhythm, actually had shorter lifespans than people. So I can see how that absolutely plays in. I know that any eating after like 7 or 8 p.m. disrupts everything for me. I know that alcohol disrupts everything for me. But I also have sleep apnea. So that's just compounds it, right?
Yeah.
I do want to ask a question as to cardio. So for people who have joint issues, so especially as you get older, knees, ankles. Now, I broke both my ankles when I was in 8th grade, so I have very bad ankles. I don't wear heels anymore, and I usually have them wrapped or taped because I'm trying to extend the length of time I have before surgeries or anything like that. Because as soon as you start going down that path, it's like a domino kind of effect. What is some great cardio exercise that does not require a treadmill, like that impact on the foot? What is some great options?
I mean, there's a whole bunch. You got your ellipticals, and there's several versions of ellipticals. Precor is one of the manufacturers, has an AMT that's really good on the body. You have your bikes. You have your recumbent bike or the upright bikes. You have your rower. I mean, there's or even just walking. Swimming is a great cardio without much impact on the joints. So there's a whole plethora of things you can do. It doesn't just have to be running. That is, often running is correlated with cardio conditioning, but going on the elliptical for an hour. And what's important is sometimes people think about cardio like, oh my God, I'm gonna go sweat and burn 1,000 calories and it's gonna be so hard. Well, that's because you're training at a very elevated heart rate. And this is something that heart rate training zones, and this is something that Orange Theory Fitness does. I'll tie it back to Orange Theory Fitness, and understanding what your body is actually doing when your heart rate is at one level versus another. And a lot of people correlate cardio with torture. You say cardio and the eyes go like this and you go back like that. And it just, I don't do cardio is our response, right? And so the reason for that is because a lot of people think of cardio or do or have done cardio at very high heart rate levels. And so there's 5 levels of heart rate in when you're doing cardio conditioning. Levels 1 and 2, your heart rate is generally around 130 or lower. And so you don't feel like you're really exercising because you're not really sweating a lot. But what your body's doing is your heart is telling your body, look, I'm doing work. It's not that intensive. There isn't a lion running after me right now. So we don't need to get energy that quickly. So why don't we use the reserves? And so what your body does is say, cool, nobody's chasing after you, Skye. You got some fat reserves. We're going to use those as energy to fuel whatever the heck it is that you're doing. As soon as my heart rate goes above 130 and the higher it goes, the more this happens, your body says, uh-oh, something is happening here. He's running for his life. We need to give him energy real quick. So once it uses the sugars in your blood, guess what it does? It melts your muscle. So you're melting muscle at this high heart rate to be able to use it because muscle metabolizes faster than fat does. So your body needs it right away. And so, if people who are looking at losing weight sometimes are doing cardio improperly.
Would that be why when you see runners, a lot of runners are very long and lean. Mm-hmm. They don't have like the massive shoulders. They don't have the bulk to them, and yet they're working out. Is that part of the reason that contributes to that?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten into triathlon a lot, so I do a lot of training, a lot of zone 2 training. What I didn't understand when I'm doing my training is, I used to just run. I thought that the way you progressed in running is you just run a little bit faster each time until you get to your goal. That's exactly not how you improve your running. What you do to improve your running is you run slow to go fast. What I mean by that is the bulk majority of your run training, you do it at a very slow pace or much slower than you would actually run in a race most of the time. The only time you really run really fast is when you're trying to improve your speed, and you only do that once or twice a week max. And so you're able to burn that fat, utilize that fuel most of the time, and improve your ability to go much longer. And then you do the shorter runs to be able to increase the speed at which you can do that at.
Interesting. I'm always fascinated because by seeing people's body shapes, right? So swimmers and the way that you take somebody, a young person through swimming and you see how their body literally morphs and changes and their shoulders develop out. When we're talking about, because you briefly mentioned somebody who's starting, and we've talked about that. What are some of the things that you like to share or serve or provide new members so that they are prepared to go the distance?
Yeah, there's a few tips and tricks. Okay, scheduling workouts. We talked about that. Okay, so make sure you schedule. Put it in your calendar. Next one is tell people. Tell people what you're doing, and that seems kind of like, why? Okay, if I have it scheduled, why don't you tell people that I'm going to work out? As humans, we are wired to tell the truth. That's why when you tell a lie, you don't feel good. So you're like, I don't feel good about lying. Well, why? Most people, anyways. It's because we are wired to tell the truth. So when I tell you that I'm going to work out tomorrow, and I tell my mother and my sister and my father, whoever, I am much more likely to do it. And so this is why people also that go to a gym at the same time and see the same people, they tend to be a little bit more successful in doing that because they're more accountable to those people. So when you tell somebody that you become accountable to that person, that I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. And so tell people what you're going to do when you're going to work out. So the other one is prepare your workout clothes and your proteins and your pre-workout the night before. Do not do it the day of, because stuff can happen in the day. Well, something is going to happen. And we talked about those people that always are living in chaos. Something, I couldn't work out because this happened and that happened. Well, the more prepared you are by circumventing some of the issues that can happen, by preparing, by just as simple as get your bag ready, get everything, put it right beside the door. You're not going to forget it. So give yourself less excuses, less pitfalls you can fall in to take you away from working out. Create a reward for yourself, okay? Whether that is a protein bar, a protein shake, whether that's putting an X on a calendar or putting an X on a workout that I have accomplished something, whether that's putting it on a tracker, give yourself, with high-fiving a coach at the end of the class, give yourself some sort of micro reward that, trust me, you're going to want to do the workout just for that little reward. As silly as it may seem, you're hacking your brain to want to do the things that you want, that you should do. So those are 4
Push
very
your
quick
dopamine
ones.
button. Push your dopamine button. So
Yeah.
they're going to sum this up. Schedule.
Yeah.
Have a schedule. Share it with people. Let people be part of your journey. Let's be prepared. Come on. I was a scout. Be prepared. Everybody, yeah, be prepared. And you know what? Gamify. Have some fun with it. Reward yourself. Push your dopamine. Get that dopamine going and move forward. This is something that we could talk about. Literally, I could have you in here every quarter because this is an ongoing, because as human beings, we always have to be working ongoing. And your locations are Seton. Where were the other ones?
Marda Loop and West Springs.
West Springs. And like I said, I know people who go to Orange Therapy and they swear by it. I wasn't sure if it was a cult initially, but they swear by it. So you know what? You guys, give Skye a shout. If you're just looking for, it's not easy. Life is not easy. And the only thing that you actually have control over is yourself. It's the
Correct.
only thing you have. So, and at Orange Therapy, you guys have a lot of support and systems set in place to help you have control of your life.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Skye. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on the Back to Business podcast. Be sure to visit calpeteclub.com, CALPETECLUB.com, to find out more about upcoming events, networking opportunities, and membership. If you are not already a valued member at the CPC, where we are proudly connecting and supporting Calgary's business leaders.